how to approach girls in Brazil, and how exactly do you get a date with a Brazilian woman. The expert will tell you all about it.
Howdy how! The Swedish gringo is back in Rio de Janeiro. Guess you didn't really think I was leaving for good now, did you? It's good to be home. And with me, a guy you're gonna be seeing a lot of, the social prodigy dating coach, Sam Overton, also known as Fluid Social.
What's up, guys?
And you're gonna be teaching the guys out there how to approach and date the Brazilian girls, eh?
Let's go.
And here's the big news. During Carnival, me and Sam will be hosting the 5-day-long intensive program Rio Rampage, where you will learn to approach and charm the girls of Brazil.
But the beach is crazy today. This is obviously not the right environment for our long chats. Let's move to a more comfortable setting.
Let's go.
I can't wait to squeeze all the wisdom out of this guy. So, who's Sam? He's British and a professional dating coach.
Clear goals equals success in a given discipline.
He's also been living in Rio for years, helping awkward foreigners to talk to Brazilian girls. And now he's gonna do the same for us, free of charge.
All right, everyone, welcome to the first ever Swedish Gringo video call, something, I don't know what it's called, but we have a true celebrity here with us. It's Sam Fluid Social. What's up, man?
Hey guys, how's it going? A true celebrity, man. You do too much. You say too much.
An enigma when it comes to talking to girls. Some people have asked me how I do to approach girls, how I get friends in Rio, and I am a mere, foot soldier compared to this guy. Just as a first introduction of who this guy is, I'm just gonna give you the word here. What is it you actually do?
Right. So yeah, for the last 10 years, I've been helping guys, started in the UK, but turned into a sort of global project, but essentially just helping guys to learn the basic skills that they were supposed to learn during childhood, right? In school and from their parents. We'd hope that we could learn something about the birds and the bees. How do I go up and talk to a woman, right? How do I not say stupid stuff? How do I overcome that feeling of anxiety and nervousness to actually do it, right? So for the last 10 years, have been helping guys to overcome that first hurdle, just going up and talking to women, and then the entire process after that as well. But the biggest part is just the anxiety that you see. You see a beautiful girl across the room, you don't know what to do, a million voices start rattling in your mind, telling you you shouldn't do it, it's not the right time, she's probably got a boyfriend, the people over there are gonna laugh at you, and I'm that one voice that says, shut all of that out, you should do it, you actually need to do it, you have a responsibility to do it.
And we will be hosting an event together during the Carnival, which you can sign up for. What do you say about that, Sam?
Yeah, we'll be a couple of gringos. We'll switch on the energy, switch on the fun, and basically go out and have a blast, right? Whilst actually learning the skills to overcome that initial confidence, go up and confidently talk to women and actually go on dates, and who knows, form relationships if that's the way it goes. So yeah, I'm really excited to collaborate with you on that.
It's gonna be fun. And it's gonna be some caipirinhas too, I hope.
Oh, many.
So Sam, how is talking to women different in Brazil compared to, where you initially started this business?
Yeah, I mean, I started in the UK, and the UK is a fairly frigid culture. I don't know how it compares to Sweden, but I know for certain that when I started in the UK, the first approach I did, it was so unusual, right? As a man to say, wait, I can just go and talk to that girl over there. I don't need to be in a bar or a club or on a dating app. It was wild, right? And so when I first came to Brazil in 2018, and I went up to the first girl that I saw on the beach, beautiful girl, and I went up and said, excuse me, I just saw you walking past. I thought you looked really beautiful, so I wanted to come and meet you. And she just nodded, was like, okay, right? This is normal for her, right? And in my culture, it wasn't normal.
She expected more.
Yeah, she expected me to just get straight to the point, right?
It was just the regular man or the guy in the convenience store or...
Yes, yeah, it wasn't a life-changing event. like it genuinely sometimes is in London. Some girls say, no guy's ever come up to me before. And that's just not the case in Brazil. It's a daily occurrence.
So it sounds, listening to you, as Brazil might be a good place to start if you're lacking the skills of, talking to girls.
Yeah, so I think that Brazil could be a good place to start, but I also think it could be a very good place to develop, right? To start, it's going to be hard wherever you are, right? But if you're in Brazil and you're not a very confident person, there is going to be that trial by fire at the start where you just have to get out there and you just have to talk to people. But very, very quickly, you're going to see that people make it very easy for you, right? You go up and talk to a girl and you might think that you were shy and awkward and nervous, but yet she's happy to stay with you and have a conversation. That's the great advantage of Brazil, is people are open to talking. People want to have these conversations, and women like to be appreciated there.
Let's say that people have already booked their Brazil trip, or, at least in their mind, they're about to come here. How would you go about to start talking to, beautiful women in the city?
Great question. Well, the first thing that I would do is I would make a commitment to delete your dating apps the moment you arrive in Brazil or before. And the reason is that sometimes in life, we are just going to take the path of least resistance, the easiest option. And dating apps are formidably so. They are formidably the easiest option. And if you come here with dating apps, what's likely to happen, particularly if you come here alone, is that you're going to settle into your apartment, you're going to sit down on your phone, and you're going to spend hours swiping, amazed at the beauty of the women. But none of the really beautiful women are the ones that you're going to meet, right, on dating apps. It just simply isn't going to be the case, right? And what that's going to do is it's actually going to take away from all of the opportunities that exist out there in the real world, that you should be going up to girls on the beach, in the streets, in the shopping malls, on a hike, in a language learning class, right? And I have found that guys who come here with apps have a really hard time breaking out of the metaverse, breaking out of technology, and just going in the real world.
Wow, that is a groundbreaking step just there, because that is usually the main gossip when you meet newly arrived travelers. They're just bragging about all the matches they got on their phones and the girls they've been setting up dates with. And most people kind of think that is the only way to meet women in Brazil, because everyone actually uses Tinder. That you're saying there's a more slim chance to be meeting the more good-looking girls on these apps because it's simply too much competition there, right?
If we know they're there, they're going to be the first thing. They're going to be the path of least resistance. And we have to burn our bridges sometimes to make massive change, right? And the massive change, going from a guy who is too scared to go up in real life and talk to a woman he likes, to being a guy that can go up to a beautiful woman and hold a conversation and get dates, that's a massive, massive hurdle to overcome for many guys. And if there is always that easier option of the dating apps that they can use, they never have to actually go out in real life and do it.
Because we're just programmed for that quick fix, aren't we?
Exactly.
We just want the easy way out. We don't want to put in the work, as Arnold Schwarzenegger says, and actually build the muscle that can help you further on. But it's easy to say, yeah, come to Brazil, talk to girls. But where should these guys go and talk to the girls? Where will they find them?
Good question. So you're going to find women in virtually every environment here, right? The big ones that I would say is obviously the beach, the promenade in front of the beach, some of the main high streets in Zona Sul, that's the South Zone, and the malls in the daytime, right? At night, you've got a number of streets, Rua Dias Ferreira, and a number of streets that are just absolutely loaded with bars and beautiful women. Nighttime
We're
is
talking
obviously
specifically about Leblon here, right? That's an excellent place to be. People are dressed up, looking good.
Leblon is the best and probably the easiest place to get started. There's more tourists here. There's higher levels of English speaking, and yeah, there is less pressure, I would say, because it feels less wild.
It's sophisticated, and it has a reputation of being safe as well. One of the safest areas.
Absolutely. So you delete your dating apps. If you're going to use them, the only thing I could recommend for dating apps is to set your location to Rio ahead of time, on, for example, Tinder Gold, and then maybe you can meet some people on Tinder before you land. But the moment you get into Rio, you should have those numbers in your WhatsApp, right? So you no longer need to do any swiping. Once you've deleted those apps and you've really burned your bridges, the only way to meet women is to actually go and meet them. Then you just have to start saying hello, right? This is really it. This is one of the biggest tricks that guys can do to massively increase their progress, is to say, when I leave the house, I'm just going to start saying hi to people.
You don't have to start with like the beautiful girls, right?
Yes.
You can start saying hi to
Everybody.
random people anywhere.
If you've said hello to 5 or 10 people, all of a sudden, the beautiful girl that's sitting reading a book on the beach, it's not so hard to go up to her and say, hello, what book are you reading, right? It makes everything easier. Sometimes it's just taking that first small step that everything else flows out of.
I've already put my theory out on the table for my audience, but I just want to hear from you. What proficiency do you need in Portuguese to be talking to girls here?
Good question. Yeah, massive for me. Again, this is my opinion, right? I've been here for 3 years, but what I believe is that it very much depends on the area that you're in. The further towards Leblon and Barra de Tijuca, which are, let's say, maybe the two much more developed areas, Ipanema, Leblon, and Barra de Tijuca, the further you get towards then, it massively increases to the point that I would say roughly 40% of the people you meet are going to be conversational in English.
If people are going to the more fancy areas of Rio, they could basically just, make it with speaking English.
Yes, you certainly can make it with speaking English, but even if you just have a few words of Portuguese, the effort to just be able to try and speak their language will also be appreciated. Brazilians are very proud of their country, and particularly Cariocas, people from Rio, are very proud to be from Rio. So if you come over and don't even attempt to speak the language, right, not only do you appear perhaps less intelligent and less well cultured than another foreigner who does speak some of the language, but it's also, they want you to love their country, and they want to see some investment and some appreciation of their culture and country. So even just speaking a few words goes a really long way to charming the locals.
Yeah, just throw in anything and even if it's not proper, they will notice if you're not speaking English anymore. So if you have a Spanish word, you can just try throwing the Spanish word in there. It has like a 50-50 chance to be translated somehow to Portuguese. Just mix it up, because Brazilians speak Portuguese with, a lower level of quality than a British person speaks English. There's no real way of speaking Portuguese anyways, and the grammar can differ in 1,000 different ways. So they are used to people, talking in a way which they might not totally understand anyways.
Because they are so much more expressive with their body language, they need fewer verbal ways of expressing the same thoughts. They don't need to communicate as clearly because the clarity is made up for by the non-verbal communication.
I agree. So I'm going to put you in a tough spot here, because I've been promoting the beach because I love sun. I also love caipirinha. So we're going to put you in a situation where I am at the beach, or rather you, with a caipirinha, and I'm just seeing the most beautiful girl in the sunbed next to me. How would you go about to get that girl to a date? Exactly how would you do?
Right. Okay. So the first thing I would say is guys spend way too much time thinking about what opening line to say, right? So the guys are thinking now, who are watching this in their head, what line is Sam going to say? What line is Sam going to give you? And we imagine that that's the most important part, and everything hinges on the first line that you say. That's simply not true. And especially in a culture like Rio, it's much more about the way that you do it, right? The way that you are communicating than what you're actually saying. So the first thing that came to my mind, which is what I would say, because it's the first thing that came to my mind, is qual sabor? What flavor, right? You said she's drinking a caipirinha on a sun lounger. So I would just look over and just say, what flavor is it? Right? And she would say this one, she would say lime. It's a lime flavored one. I would say terrible decision. You should have gone for passion fruit, right? Something like that. And again, I'm not saying that because it's the best line to say. I'm saying it because the best line to say is the one that you didn't have to think a lot about. It's the one that just came to you and you threw out there. Because the more you think about it and try and find the perfect line, the more weird your communication is going to become, right? So you start having a conversation like that, and then she tells you the flavor, and she says, no, I don't like the passion fruit. I like the lime one better. Whatever it is, right? The conversation is going to move. And then just as you sort of challenged by saying terrible decision, you should have got this flavor, you want to be challenging throughout the interaction. For a lot of guys, saying you're so sexy, I want to go home with you is very, very difficult and alien and foreign, and it wouldn't work for them, right? It doesn't feel right. But to be able to subtly tease and challenge, right? Like saying that she chose the wrong flavor, and creating these moments of tease and challenge throughout the interaction gives her an opportunity to play, right? To play with you. You're teasing her a little bit and she's teasing you back, right? Or responding to it. Now, this creates an emotion, right? This spikes the emotion and creates an emotional connection where you're no longer just having a conversation, but you're actually spiking each other's emotions, right? And attraction can only come if there's some feeling of emotion. And what I would try and do is, if there's nothing else that you need to do, or there's nothing else that she needs to do, there's absolutely no need to leave her side, right? A lot of guys think, let me just get the number and I'll message her later. You're on the
No, you just stay.
Yeah, just hang out, because you could realistically spend the next 3 days with her, knowing Rio, just because you hung out, you talked to her, she became comfortable with you, she felt emotion when she was around you, she had nowhere else to be. You invited her back to your apartment, which was somewhere down the street, and she wanted to go because it was fun and she likes you and there's nothing to lose, and you have a great, amazing experience, right?
And this will happen one day, right?
This can all happen in one day. Yeah. You know, myself and many of my clients have had experiences where it continues for 3 days. Like, I'm with a client, he goes off, it's 5 p.m. He starts talking to a girl. I don't see him that evening. I don't see him for 2 more days. I worry about where he's gone. And then he tells me we traveled down to Ilha Grande, and he just stayed together for the next 3 days. And that's normal there, right? It's normal. People live much more flexibly and they value their leisure time much more highly. So there aren't these strictures of, oh, I can meet you at 8 p.m. sharp, but only today. Tomorrow won't work, and I have to meeting at this. It's much more fluid and flexible.
I just gotta ask you one thing, because in my head, different scenarios start playing out. I might not be the most, advanced person when I'm starting talking to people. So I would probably not be, smart enough to come up with the caipirinha idea. How does it play with just a normal compliment walking up to this girl on the beach?
Yeah. So a compliment can and does work, but I tend to think of giving a compliment as similar to the way people describe capitalism as the worst system except for all the others, right? I tend to think that a compliment, it's the least interesting way of starting a conversation. It's just that the vast majority of conversations have literally no other way to start them except for a compliment.
But Brazilians love compliments.
They do. But there is, to some extent, to some extent the case that if you start with a compliment, you're already saying that I like you. But if she's on the beach, there's so many creative ways that you can go, right? And I tend to think about situational opening lines as the best. Now, situational is observing something specific to this moment, to your surroundings, to, as you said, the clothes she's wearing, the weather that's happening right now, what's going on in your surrounding, right? What is completely unique about her in this moment right now that you can draw on? Now, if you're on the beach, what could that be, right? Who knows? Is there a couple of helicopters overhead, right? And
there's always helicopters. People constantly keep drowning, so there will always be helicopters.
Yeah, but the first thing, just pay attention to your environment, right? And comment on what you're seeing. Obviously, as a foreigner, you have a great advantage. Like you could basically just go up and say, hey, I'm new here. I'm just trying to meet some friends. And that's a perfectly legit and cool / normal way to be, right? Excuse me, is that over there? Is that Vidigal? Is that Favela Vidigal over there? Right? And she's like, yeah, that's Vidigal. And is Rocinha behind it? Yeah, but Rocinha's behind it. Okay, thank you. I'm new here, so I'm still trying to figure out like the map of the land. That's a perfectly normal way to start a conversation. And in many ways, it's going to be better than a compliment.
So being the new tourist, that's a strategy that will always take you somewhere, to just ask questions about their city, their country.
100%.
I'm going to be wrapping up my questions with you with a really easy one. Everyone wants to know this. How much easier is it to get girls in Brazil compared to Europe?
That is not an easy question. That's not an easy question. Let's leave them on a cliffhanger and cover that in our follow-up. So let's leave the cliffhanger. I got to dash off now.
Are you blushing a little here now?
I'm ready. I'll prepare a thorough answer for our in-person collaboration. Let's leave this one on a cliffhanger and save that answer for later. But it's a very nuanced and complex answer, which I've thought about.
Ladies and gentlemen, we made the expert gentleman Sam Fluid Social blush. I'm almost a little proud of myself here. I heard you also wanted to ask me some questions, right? So let's just turn the table around here, and I'll be happy to take your questions.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to do this thing for Carnival. Like it's gonna be an absolute blast. I got recommended by like 8 different people over the course of the past 5 years to just reach out to you. And the final straw was this year. I just got one random email like, man, you need to reach out to Swedish Gringo. And so I finally caved in. And in a lot of your videos, you're actually, going up and having conversations with lovely ladies on the beach and asking questions that people want to know the answers to. And one thing that really comes through in your videos is that they're very engaging. But one thing that really comes through is that you're able to create that fun energy and that fun vibe and, make people laugh and make them have a good time. I mean, I know you don't like receiving compliments or gassing yourself, as we say in the UK, but what do you think there is about that? Like, how do you kind of bring the best out of people and get them talking and open up the people that you interview and the women that you talk to in Brazil?
I wouldn't say it's so much me. Sometimes I'm getting surprised myself by the reaction you get. You need so little to get a positive response here. So I would say, rather than anything else, I'm kind of just mirroring the energy they already have. So I wouldn't make people laugh this way in Sweden, for instance. There's definitely, a factor that we are in Brazil. I'm not a magician. Like, I'm just a regularly normal social person. But that gets you much further here in Brazil than anywhere else. I guess one of the things is that I don't care as much when I start a conversation. I never, know all the words in the sentences I'm throwing away. Sometimes I don't even know where the conversation will go, but it doesn't matter. In Brazil, people they like the conversation for the conversation's sake. So there's really nothing to lose ever, because you will always get some information or some fun out of it.
So what do you think, because obviously you've been here a long time, what do you think are some of the biggest culture shocks in terms of that men come and they have to kind of adapt to in Rio?
Yeah, I can tell you one culture shock. I'm not a man who is, easily shocked, because I have actually been traveling the world. I've been to 91 countries, various different situations. But one thing that keeps shocking me, and this is especially Rio, because Rio is, where people are the most intense. You could go to a place on a date with a girl and she will still be, approached by other guys asking if she's single and obviously wanting to do more things with her than that. It's like if you are with a girl on some of your very first dates and a guy comes hitting heavily on her, it's surreal. And also you don't really know how to react in the best possible way, because Brazilians, they don't like conflict. They don't like when you show aggression. So you will somehow have to handle the situation in a sophisticated matter, but the situation is just so unsophisticated as it is. So actually, I was in a situation where I was out. It was a party on the street. I was there with a girl, first date. A guy comes and he asks if she's single, and she kind of says no. And I ask him, maybe it's best you go to someone else. And he's like, yeah, but are you together or not? And I say yes. And she looks at me and like, no, we're not together. We're just on our first date. And that's where, he's gaining momentum. And eventually I just walk laughing away from there. The culture shock of Brazil is that they have another system of dating. It's called to be a ficante, a hookup. So when you first meet, you just hookups, and people collect these hookups. So it's not until you eventually, evolve into a higher stage of the relationship that you have, first dibs, that you're exclusive. That is very different. Another shock is how fast they leap into kissing. If you're in a nightclub, you could just observe when a guy is walking up to a girl and how long it takes for him to start kissing her if he's not rejected initially. That will go very fast, and the same will kind of be expected of you if you're on a date. You have to show that you are interested in a way that would raise more than a few eyebrows in Europe or the United States.
But it's you're so right. It's so interesting that you're expected to communicate your emotions clearly here.
Yes, and they're also a much more physical people. The culture is much more physical. They simply touch each other in situations where you wouldn't be touching people in Europe or the States. So imagine if you're trying to be like the subtle romantic guy, and on top of that, you're sitting with distance to her. You're not being anywhere near with your hands or your body. She will see that as a sign of, yeah, you're just trying to be nice, but you're not interested. So that might be offensive.
It's bizarre. But yeah, I mean, if anybody has listened to this and thought even a little bit like, I want to know more, book a call with me at the link in the description. As always, these calls are free. I'm happy to tell you more about Rio and the experience that you're likely to have, how to stay safe and everything else. And this event's going to be absolutely epic. We've got 2 people coming already. So there's 4 to 5 depending spots left, but it's going to be absolutely epic. So guys, get in touch at the link in the description, get on the phone with me. And if you want to talk to the Swedish Gringo as well, of course, I will forward your contact on to him and you can jump on the phone with him as well.
All right, everyone. This was Sam from Fluid Social. You will be seeing much more of him in the future. Thank you so much for coming to me and for me being with you.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Yeah, what can I say? Carnival, caipirinha, and a dating pro leading your way. Has there ever been a better reason for coming to Rio? If you liked the video, please subscribe and support the channel. Thanks for watching and be safe.